Was it because you just started to not trust doctors or something?
I'm not going to say that online.
Okay.
So, we're back for Caspian's birth story. Caspian is 4 this year. Man, it just doesn't even feel... It doesn't feel like 4 years. You know? It's so weird how small he seems still and how big he seems sometimes. It's weird. So for Caspian's pregnancy, I did about half of it at an OBGYN near me. And then I was finally able to switch to a midwife through a birth center when I was about 20 weeks. They handled my care from then on. So the plan was that I would, once I was in labor, I would just go to the birth center and have the baby, and then bring the baby home within like a couple hours. That was pretty standard for them. So, I mean, unless there were complications.
She chose to have a midwife because we had a friend who was pregnant before.
Yeah, her son is 9 months older than Caspian.
Okay, so she had used a midwife for hers, and she had such a great experience that she was like, everybody should get a midwife. So she was like, yeah, I should have a midwife too. And so we...
Well, keep in mind too, here in Washington, or at least this part of Washington, having a midwife is like no big deal. Everybody has a midwife. Practically. More people than not will have a midwife. But in Southern California, you have to like search high and low for a midwife. It's not as easy.
Things didn't really go as we wanted it to. The day you were having labor, we went to the midwife.
Wait a minute, you're skipping like half the story. Think of it this way. All of Iris's story was from the time we got to the hospital on, because it was scheduled. But Caspian's was not scheduled, so all of his birth story is like before the birth. Basically. The birth is like the last piece of it. Here we go. So I got to my due date with Caspian, which was October 13th. And then it left. And I went to church the next day and was like, nobody better ask me why I haven't had this baby yet. I'm like, not in the mood for this, because it was like really uncomfortable. Mm. So that night, so Sunday night, I was like getting some stuff just ready to go. Took a late shower, and I just started to think, okay, there's some stuff I need to do while I'm able to, because I don't know the next time I'll be able to once a baby is here. Just because it's the first baby, I don't know these things. Like, I don't know what I can handle once he's here. So I decided I was going to sit down and clip my toenails. Trust me, this is important. So I sat down and was like bending over, and was like, oh, it's so hard to bend over. And I pushed myself too far. And I heard a pop. Like on the top part of my belly, I heard a pop. And I thought, oh no, I think I broke my water, but I don't know, because I've never done this before. So I told you that. I was in the living room with you. You were playing video games, and I said, I think I just broke my water, but I'm not sure. Let me stand up and see. And so like, yeah, I went to the bathroom. You could tell, I won't go into detail. You could tell it was amniotic fluid and not anything else. I called the number that I had for the midwifery. What was it? I had a business card, so I called that number because they are an on-call midwife, because the whole group has like 4 or 5 different ones. Called that number, and she said, okay, well, do you have any contractions? I said, just very light, every so often, nothing consistent. And she said, okay, well, it's like 11:30 p.m. Just go to bed, call me in the morning, tell me what you're feeling like at that time. And so I went to bed a little bit after that, but I couldn't sleep for the longest time because I was like excited. I was like, wait, I can't go to sleep. I want to feel the contractions. Mind you, they were pretty bearable. So, I mean, and they came like every 15 to 20 minutes, more than that. You know, it was nothing, no big deal. So I did sleep on and off throughout the night. In the morning, contractions were not really any different. They were still just really spaced out, really just no big deal. Felt like period cramps, nothing big. So I called the midwifery back. I think I got a different one that time, different midwife that time. She advised me, you should still come down and see us. And so we were in Riverside. This was in Corona. It was like, I want to say like 20, away. Yeah, like 25, 30 minutes away. She said, why don't you just come down? I'll check you and we'll just see where we're at, you know? So we had breakfast and everything. It was like 10:30 when we got down there. When she was checking for dilation, she said, you know, maybe like 2 to 3 centimeters, but realistically women can be that way the last like month or more of their pregnancy. It doesn't really mean anything. So it doesn't mean you're like in labor. It just means that you are, you know, that far. She suggested doing a membrane sweep and breaking my waters the rest of the way to really get things going, because I was now on the clock with the midwifery. They are a limited liability corporation. They can't provide their services in-house if your water has been broken for more than 24 hours. It's just risk of infection goes up to mother and baby, and they just don't want to be caught up in that. So did the membrane sweep and broke my water the rest of the way. And she said, wow, this is like one of the hardest waters I've ever broken. Like it was like it wasn't ready to be broken yet. And I have thoughts about that, but it's okay. So we went home. She said, call the number back. Whoever's on call they'll take your call whenever you can update us with something else. And so that whole day, that was Monday. The plan was just to putter around at home, take it easy, watch movies, keep track on our phone of the contractions and stuff, and maybe go for a walk, but not like spend too much energy, because you need that energy for when you're pushing a baby out. And because we had done a Bradley method class during the pregnancy, we were also advised by our teacher. It feels weird to call her teacher. It's our friend. But we were advised to really, like, just in the early stages of labor, just try not to think about the contractions as much as you can. Just put it out of your mind. Just pretend they're not there, because you don't want to get worked up. You don't need to get fussy about it at all. You just need to make it until it's really hard labor, so that you can use the energy you've stored up. And also, Craig's mom was down from Washington. She had come a few days before the due date, I want to say. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she was planning to leave again a few days after the due date. And so she came down just in case he would be born in that time frame that she would get to meet him and stuff. So she was coming over every day to help us with stuff. She did a lot of cleaning for us. She brought us meals. It was really helpful. So she came over, and I completely forgot. Like, so she called before she came over, and she said, hey, I'm gonna head over. What do you guys want for lunch? I'll pick it up for you. And at that time, I had thought, like, oh, I forgot she was coming over, because I was just so focused on, like, okay, let's just take it easy and, like, just sit down in front of the TV or whatever. So she came over, and I just wasn't feeling in the mood to be around a lot of people. I often compare it to, like, a cat when they give birth. They kind of just sneak away, go somewhere quiet and dark, and just do it. They don't make a big deal of it, and they don't want to cause a scene. They just want to birth their kittens. So that's what it felt like, was I just kind of wanted to withdraw and just be more or less alone, except have Craig there, you know, for moral support and stuff. So she said, okay, that's fine. She was staying with some neighbor friends of ours while she was down, so she had a place to go back to and everything. But she said, is there anything that I can help you with before I go? So I think she vacuumed our bedroom. I remember her vacuuming. I think she vacuumed our bedroom, probably the rest of the place too. It wasn't a big condo. So, and then she left again. Okay, so then I started to feel like I was better off walking around. And so I would pace through the condo, back and forth. And I remember you telling me jokes that you were finding on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Telling me jokes. You know, like just different stuff like that to keep my mind busy. And that was helpful. I started to feel contractions a lot closer together and stronger and stuff probably around 6:30 or so in the evening. And I said we should call the midwife because from what we were taught about labor, this might be a part of transition and it could be the home stretch. And I want to be in a good place, in good hands whenever we have the baby and not be like scrambling. We called her and she said, okay, well, on your next contraction, let me just listen to how you're breathing because that'll tell me a lot. And I thought that's really weird, but okay, we'll do that. So, and from her assessment when I was breathing during the contraction, she said, you know, you don't seem like you're, whatever she said, like struggling too much, or like you seem like you still have a good handle on things and you can talk through contractions and stuff like that. And so why don't you just wait a little bit longer? And I must have like fought her on it in some way because I was saying like, no, I don't think that I should. I really want to be seen by someone, at least checked by someone. I think she said, okay, well then why don't you just come down to the birth center, right? I think so. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we got our bags in the car, or maybe they already are, and we went down to Corona again, half an hour away. She checked me. I was still 2 to 3 centimeters, and she said it was her and a doula there that they provided, which I didn't know about, but that was fine. And on the way there, I called Candace, my younger sister, to come meet us there because it was our plan from the beginning to have her there during the birth, because I just felt like she would be really good in this situation to have around. I called her to meet us there. We got there and the doula offered to like give me a massage and put essential oils like on my wrists and behind my ears and on my feet, different stuff like that. I was like, sure, we'll try it. Like, I don't know, like that wasn't one of my plans, but we'll try it. And they had me walk around, had me like lay in different positions with a peanut ball and everything like that. And it was when I laid on my side that I was like, oh, this was a bad idea. And I threw up, went to the bathroom and threw up. No more laying on my side after that. I started panicking and I told Craig, I said, I don't want to have to go to the hospital. I don't want to have to go to the hospital. And you said, just calm down and just breathe and just keep walking around. Like, just... like, it's okay, just keep doing this stuff. So we got there around like 7:30. At around 10:30, when we had sent Candace out to get like what, raspberry leaf tea or something.
Probably.
It was something like that. I don't remember. I think it was raspberry leaf tea. Sent her out to a store to get in this place that she wasn't familiar with, you know, Corona. Back at the birth center, they checked me. Well, you're still 2 to 3 centimeters. Really? How? Like, the pain is so much worse now. It's like I can barely stand it. I don't know. And they said, when did your water break last night? And I said around 11:30. And they said, okay, we can wait another hour or we can make the calls, transfer you to the hospital that they contract with. I don't remember. Did we wait or did we say go ahead?
We just went.
We just went ahead. Yeah, that's right. So got all the stuff packed up. They made all the calls and everything. And they were going to go with us. The midwife and the doula were going to go with us and still be with us in the hospital, which was really cool. I didn't realize that they did that, but that was really good. On our way to the hospital back in Riverside, then we were like, oh shoot, we need to call Candace and tell her to go back the other way. So she's like, what? I don't even know where I am. I got this tea and I don't even know where I am. Like, and you're changing stuff on me. It was a little, yeah, it was confusing for a little bit. So, but everybody got to the hospital where we all needed to be. So you dropped me off. They were there on the sidewalk waiting for me, the midwife and the doula, and they helped me in the emergency room entrance, like where you get checked in and everything. So while you went and parked and came back and stuff. And I don't know why. I had to fill out a stack of papers and I had to stop and do that. I had to write in between contractions. Like, can somebody do this for me? This is not a good idea. Like, it took 20 minutes or more, at least. It felt like, can't Craig do this for me? Why do I have to do this? A little bit later, then they called me and they wheeled me up to a room and got me monitored and stuff. And I was in my own room, and it was pretty cool. What was cool about it also was they had a recliner, but then they had, like, do you remember they had this little, like, bed nook in the wall? Weirdest thing. I've never seen that before, but it was what we needed, because Candace was there, you were there, and the doula and the midwife were both there. The midwife only stayed till like after midnight, I want to say, and she had another woman that she had to meet in the morning, so she couldn't stay, but the doula stayed with us the whole time. Very good. So Candace was sleeping in the little, like, wall nook, and you were in the recliner. The doula said, oh no, I'm fine. I'll go back to my car, lay down in there. I do that all the time during births. So she did that. So the whole time there was this nurse in there watching the computer screen next to me, and we would talk every so often. When I first got there, she asked me, it seems like we're gonna need to do Pitocin to get these contractions really going, since you've now had your water broke for over 24 hours. We don't want to risk infection anymore. And so she said, do you want an epidural or just the Pitocin? Which I was already okay with the Pitocin. They had to make sure, because being transferred from a birth center, they don't have any of that stuff. They don't do epidurals or Pitocin or anything like that. It was kind of a new situation to walk into. So I said, okay, yes, I'll do Pitocin, fine, since that seems to be better for the situation. And I said, but I've heard that the pain gets a lot worse when you have Pitocin. How much worse should I expect? And she said, probably about 20 times worse. And I was like, well, forget that. I can't do this without an epidural. So I said, okay, let's do the epidural first. They did that. They told me Craig would get to stay in the room, and they ended up not letting him stay in the room. And I was very upset about that, because I had never had an epidural before. It's like, what? I need my person in here. So
wait, when they put the injection in your back?
No, they didn't let you. Oh, sorry.
I was
okay.
there.
No, okay.
I was there when they started the process of putting the epidural in your back.
Right, but I was told he would get to hold my hand and sit next to me and stuff, and then they made him sit across the room. Like with the nurse, the nurse said, oh, you can lean on me. And I'm like, well, thanks, I don't want to. But I did anyway. He had to do it twice, I think, because the first time I moved, because he's like, well, try not to move. It's like, well, what do you expect people to do whenever you tell them that? Plus, you're like hunched over in this weird position. But so he had to try twice, and he got it in the second time, no problem. But laid me back down in bed. The nurse kept checking after I had thrown up again, because I remember doing that, because they laid me on my side. So I threw up again, got the epidural in, and she kept checking every so often. Do you feel anything right here? Do you feel anything right here? Like progressing down my legs. They waited for a while before doing Pitocin, except they never actually got to the Pitocin, because at one point the nurse left and she came back in and she said, the doctor's looking at your baby's heart rate or something like that and doesn't like it. He wants to get him out now. A part of me wanted to fight to get longer and, try, like, maybe, like, turn the epidural off and let me walk around, or, as soon as it wears off, try something, put me in a different position or something, like, to speed up labor. But the other part of me was so tired and just so done with it, and everybody else around me was asleep too. So it's not like anybody else was there to say, oh wait, maybe we haven't tried everything. So I just finally said, okay, fine, we'll do it. Because there was also this thought in my head of, really? Like, you mean I could meet this baby in like an hour? Are you kidding me? Yes, I'll do that. It was a lot of different things competing inside of me. And so that finally won out. So they woke you guys up and explained what was going to happen, had me sign more papers. And then they said something funny. They're like, okay, well, we're not going to go yet because there's a C-section already happening in front of you guys, before you guys. So you got to wait, like, kind of in line And so it's like, well, but this kind of seems like you're making it seem more or less like an emergency. So it felt very odd to say, okay, doctor wants him out now. Okay, but you gotta wait an additional 45 minutes or so for your turn in line. But got all prepped and then got, wheeled on my little bed, basically just down the hall, I think. It was just down the hall to the operating room. And I remember thinking whenever they took me in there, wow, this is a small room. It's a really small room. They usually seem bigger on TV. And his whole pregnancy, I had been watching Grey's Anatomy, like one episode after another. So I was very familiar with medical type stuff as seen on TV. So they got me all ready, slid me over to the other table, and they were a good way into the procedure before they let Craig come in. Because what did you first notice whenever you walked in the room?
When I first walked into the room, I noticed it was pretty small, but the first thing I saw was a giant bag of blood at the side of, hanging on her side. And it just smelled horrible in there. So that's what I noticed when I first walked in. They put me next to her head, and then I sat there, and you were conscious. The weird thing that they don't knock you out for that. So I was trying to comfort her as we were there, and then eventually I think it was soon after Caspian was born. Did it take a little while for him to start screaming?
Yeah.
They ripped him out. 5
seconds or so.
They ripped him out. They put him on the table. It took a little while for him to actually start screaming, so we kind of got a little bit worried for that. And then he started.
You did too?
Well, yeah.
Okay, because like we said in Iris's video, she cried right away. There was no doubt that she was alive, but we had to wait a few seconds to hear him, and it was very watery. Like, they had to get stuff out of his lungs and everything, so. Yeah,
so they had to do a lot, and then I guess just between the worrying about him, the not liking the whole situation as a whole, being really tired, I didn't get very much sleep at all, even though they let me sleep in the recliner. And then seeing all that blood and everything just eventually got to me to where I started to pass out. I tried to hold on to it because I passed out a lot in my life. So whenever I start to feel it, I go, oh, I'm going to pass out. I can try and hold on to it, or I can let somebody know before I just black out and end up with my head on the floor.
And because I couldn't move my head a lot, but I heard a nurse say, "Are you okay?" And you said, "I feel like I'm going to pass out."
I was trying to hold on to it. I was trying to keep myself there and maybe push through it, because sometimes I've been able to do that. But my face must have been like super white because
something tipped somebody off. I didn't.
Somebody asked me if I was feeling okay, and I was like, "No, I'm about to pass out." And I was far enough along to where they didn't have enough time to move me.
They had to catch.
I practically fell off the chair. They caught me and then gently put me on the ground and then dragged me out.
And then and it's like, okay, and so like I was saying in Iris's video, where when they had to take you out of the room during her birth, it bothered me, but then you're kind of also like in the middle of, you're like, well, okay, there's nothing I can do about this. I can't care too much. Like, I can't do anything. I felt that a lot with whenever they took him out of the room, and I could see enough to know that they dragged him out of the room. It was like, I can't do anything about it. Like, it's very noticeable to me right now that my hands are tied down. Like, I can't do anything. Yeah, that was that. And see, since I had the Bradley class, our friend Allison had us write a birth plan, because no matter what scenario you end up having whenever your baby comes, it's always nice for people to know what your wishes are in case they can accommodate them. I had a list, ideas that I had gotten here and there throughout the pregnancy, or that I even had beforehand. I noticed that one of the doctors found this sheet of paper. The doula must have brought it in, and then she couldn't stay in. So picked up this sheet of paper, and then set it back down. Because it's like, well, no, nothing was heated on that paper. So, like, oops, we can't do anything about it now, like, was kind of the gist that I got from that. Not preferable. When everything's all said and done, baby's out, got taken away somewhere. I have no idea where. Where'd they take him? You know?
They followed me.
Oh, they took... Okay, so Caspian followed.
So after they took me out, they eventually moved me over to another room, I guess a recovery room, put me in a chair and gave me an orange juice.
Giant recovery room, I might add.
And then they eventually moved Caspian over there too. And so he was pretty much like to the side of me, sitting there with a whole bunch of nurses trying to test him and poke him and do all that stuff.
Right, yeah,
While she was gone for like hours.
No.
It felt like hours.
No, what it was they were finishing up. It was a very quick C-section. No complications whatsoever. So, got taken to recovery. Noticed that Craig was there on the far end of the room because it was a long room. And then Caspian was in and out of the room. Like, nurses kept bringing him in and out. I don't know what they were doing, except I saw him drinking a bottle of water. I saw, like, the nurse was, like, bottle feeding him clear liquid at one point. It was a big bottle, too.
No, it was a bottle of formula.
There was that, too.
I don't think they gave him clear liquid.
No, they did give him clear liquid, and I asked her, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, he's getting a glucose test for his blood sugar. Like, it's sugar water, basically. And I was like, and so I was groggy, and I was like, I can't make heads or tails of anything, but I was like, that doesn't seem right. Why is he getting a glucose test? It just, like, why are they feeding my newborn sugar water? This doesn't make sense. But I couldn't speak up about it. Like, I was, yeah. So I was still really, really numb. Like I said in Iris's video, like, my chest was numb. Like, I felt like I could barely breathe. So it was, I had to get a little bit more back to normal, and they wouldn't let me hold him. They didn't, I think they brought him near the side of the bed for me to see at one point, but they didn't set him down or anything. And yeah, they did feed him formula. They scrubbed him down. So your mom was there, and she took pictures, which was good because there was nobody else to do that. Like, she took some, you know, those, like, first day pictures of, like, oh, here's his first bath and, like, stuff like that. So that was good. They finally did let me hold Caspian. And they said, why don't you try nursing him? And I was like, thank you. Like, he needed to do this hours ago. Like, honestly, I've been here. I was in recovery like a solid 2 hours, if not more, before they offered to bring him to me. And it's so different with Iris. Like, it was almost right away. They let me hold her and nurse her. So they gave him to me, and I was like, okay, well, I don't really know. Like, I'll just do this. I don't know how to do this, really. And the doula that was with us the whole time, like, like, not shy about any of this because this is her job. She's done this several times. Just grabs my boob, grabs the baby, sticks him on. And I was like, oh, that's how you do that. Okay. But, like, it was just, like, hard to start. But yeah, I was like, okay, we got this. And he nursed a lot. He didn't have any problem nursing, so that was good. That's basically his story. Like I said, recovery is a whole other type of thing. I would wrap it up by saying I still can't believe it was 4 years ago. Because in a way it feels so much longer, and in another way he still seems like my baby. It's just so weird. There's no other situation in life that quite feels the same as having children for that reason, where it feels like forever that you have them, but it feels like no time at all at the same time. Thanks for sticking around for this. And again, if you have any questions, I did leave details out to make it shorter. So if you have any questions, I can definitely clarify stuff for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.